Today is April 17th, 2008. We're at the Burleson Public Library. This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress. We have with us today Leroy Dale Munday of Burleson. He was born July 29th, 1942. He served in the U.S. Army from September 1966 to September 1968. He also was involved with the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. Mr. Munday, thank you for coming. Will you please tell me where you came from, what your parents did, and your kind of childhood?
Oh, well, I was born in Mount Passage, Texas, and my dad had several little jobs. He was a dairyman. We owned what you'd think is a Dairy Queen, but we had a different name on it. He used to be a pretty good hamburger cook. We figured out that I moved, I think, 12 or 13 times within my school year. You know, time I went to school, so I graduated.
Where did you graduate high school from?
Pascal.
Okay.
I went to Crowley. They had 9 grades, and from there we rode the bus, had the bus back and forth, 4 hours a day, two one way and two the other. I lived on the dairy out at Crowley, Hampton, Harold Hampton's Dairy, and from the time I was 14. So I might as well say that's where I was raised, out in that part of the country.
Well, tell me, how did you get into the U.S. Army?
How did I get in there? I got married and changed my status, and they found me, and when I was 24, they drafted me. I was married 2 months.
And what did your wife think about this?
Well, I don't guess she liked it too much, but it wasn't much we could do about it.
So what kind of training did you go through?
Well, I went to Fort Ord, California, and done a lot of running. And I had one of the biggest DIs I ever seen in my life. We looked out the window and we decided, boy, wouldn't we hate to have him. That's who called us out the next morning.
And what was his name?
And Sergeant Ashley. He's black. We thought, man, we done had it. He walked up and down the ranks and told us this and told us that. But by the time our training was over, we found out that he was one of the best men around. Good man.
What did your training consist of?
Well, they let you, shoot your machine guns and throw the grenades and all that kind of stuff.
Did you excel at anything in particular?
No, nothing other than I was the oldest one in my group whenever I got over to Vietnam, and I had mechanical experience prior. I worked for International Harvester. I went to Nashville Auto Diesel College, and so they put me in charge of the maintenance. I worked from 6 at night till 6 in the morning.
So how did you get over to Vietnam?
Well, that's in Vietnam. Well, how did I get over there?
Yeah.
On a crowded, I think it was a 747. The seats is about 6 inches apart. 18 hours.
What was it like when you first set foot on their soil?
Well, you can imagine leaving the United States and landing there at night. They unloaded you, and the first thing you saw was an airport blowed half apart. They loaded you onto a bus with wire and stuff on the windows, keep grenades from coming in. I found out later. They had a Jeep in front and a Jeep in the back. This is at night, with big floodlights on it and machine guns. The floodlights was going from side to side to the little houses. You see these little shacks and all that kind of stuff. And then I can't remember exactly, they took us somewhere and unloaded us. And when you get over there, for about a month you're scared to death, and after that you get to where you do crazy stuff, you know.
Well, what was your camp like where you were at?
My orders was to go to Munday. They said, man, it's just like being in the States, you won't have no problem. Well, on the way, my orders got changed to Saigon. I seen Cameron Bay the day I was supposed to leave the country. That's where I flew out of. I went from one end of that country to the other. Saigon was my first station. And then from there on, went to Way. And by the way, when we got to Way, I kept asking where Way was. They said, it's right there. And I said, right there, that's you. H-U-E. That's Way. Anyway, awesome nude. On the beach, monsoon season, need water. So.
What was that like, going through knee-deep water?
Well, you got wet up your knees.
Well,
I mean, we'd sleep in our bunkers. We made our bunkers, had 1,200 sandbags in our bunker. Me and 5 more, we made one together, stayed in there. And one night, they threw in a few rounds on us, so we rolled over with our mattress on top of us. And we was in the water there, you know, and one of the kids was supposed to leave a day or two. He stuck his head up out of the water, and he said, that's Langhoff who it was. Stuck his head up out of the water, and we kidded him about it. He really didn't say this, but we kidded him about it later. Glug, 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 oh Lord, don't let me get him bitter at me now. I'm supposed to leave.
what, besides mechanical duties, what all were you involved in?
Well, I'd done some moving of some, because I had been a truck driver and stuff. Well, I guess normally the Army don't put you where you know anything about, you know. They put me on a little island with some Marines. And I was the only one there, but what I did, I shuffled trailers off onto boards, and they took it down there until I got them all the trailers off. And I was there by myself with all the Marines. Of course, I went over and found their sea ration and stuff, and I got the best stuff out and left the rest.
How do you keep a sense of humor in Vietnam?
Well, you got to do that or cry, I guess. You know, we had a lot of different things happen.
Now, you mentioned the Tet Offensive.
Mm-hmm.
How did that begin for you?
Well, we got word that it was in Saigon, Highway 1, run down there, and Charlie would be just on the other side of the highway. We got word that they were supposed to attack. So we got everything through array. They put bunkers up across the road and this sort of thing for us and all this. But we went on with our work pretty well. And I don't remember what time after midnight. I was working on a 5-ton. They have cloth tops and this sort of thing. And having a kid with a fifth wheel on it driving a Penny, I think. And I heard a blast back over. And I stood up, and when it did, it knocked me back into the cloth top. So I knew that things was coming off about then. So everybody got their stuff and went across the road to the bunkers and stuff. And luckily they didn't show up right in our area right there. What had happened was they blowed up ammo, but that's where the blast came from. And so I was been behind some barrels with an old sergeant, and he was a World War II man. And laying our weapons up against these barrels, and they sounded kind of hollow, so we hit them again. They were hollow. Nobody had put anything in them. There had been jet fuel in them, so we decided to move away from them. Then when we got over there, he had some cheese that he brought with him, so we started eating his cheese. And I said, you know what, I just made a pot of coffee over there. I said, if you won't shoot me, I'll go over and get him. So I get down and I go over and get this pot of coffee, and I ended up with about 2 cups of coffee, maybe out of the bunch, you know. Got back over, he said, well, I said I wouldn't, but I didn't say about the rest of you guys around here, you know. Now, you do crazy stuff.
What other crazy stuff did you partake in?
Well, that very same night, Gerlou was one of the best kids I had. Young kid, Yankee. He would come in, he took his weapon, leaned up against the door, and normally he'd drive for anywhere in a Jeep or whatever, you know. But he'd just pull up and park, head into the fence. Well, that night, he'd come in and he'd back it in. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to be ready to go. I said, okay, no problem. Well, whenever this blast come, I run back over to the maintenance shack to find everybody, get everybody out of there. I hollered, the Jeep was there, weapons there, I hollered for glue, couldn't find glue no more. Finally he hollered, he done across the road, so I got his weapon and got the Jeep go across the road. But a good deal with Gerlou was it when they gave him to me, I said, what do you know about cars or trucks? Never as much as change oil on my car. I thought, oh man. Well, he's one of these kids that you show him once, he's got it, you know, and he can learn. So, of course, the truck driver never drove a truck either, so one of them brought up a TI sheet to adjust the carburetor. The carburetor needed tested. Well, those trucks don't have carburetor, diesels. You want fuel diesels. So I thought this would be a good one. So I handed him it. I said, you need to fix this. So he goes outside, stays a few minutes, come back in. I was at the desk doing something. Walks over to the manuals. He picked up one, sat there and read it in a few minutes. Walked over to my desk, broke down my desk. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, you find me that carburetor and I'll adjust it. There wasn't no carburetor. He's a pretty swift kid.
Well, what was the mood of the men around you like?
All real good. We ended up doing real good. We had a good time. We had a full-blood Indian, and he could sing Hank Williams. But the drunker he got, he could really sing Hank Williams. And when he got drunk, he got out of control. He was a good guy, nice guy, until he got drunk. Well, MPs picked him up one night, so he got out. So from then on, when he got drunk, what we'd do is we'd lock him up in a Connex. That's a little tube shed, metal building. He would rage Cain, man, throw everything around. We just leave him in there overnight, go back next morning, let him out, go eat breakfast. And, I don't know. We were stationed, and I can't remember where this was. There's so many different places, but we had another guy there. They called him the old man because he had no hair on his head. He's younger than I was. But they hit us, and we went in underneath a water wagon, which wasn't very big. And I was laying down underneath that thing, and directly I felt somebody get a hold of my ankle. Looked back, and it was him. He says, Munday, don't worry about a thing. He says, I'm right behind you. I got tickled like ropes on that one there. And then we got another one named Reb. We called him Reb because he's in Tennessee. And they hit us one night with mortars. And he didn't have nowhere to go, so he fell down out in the middle of the sand out there in the middle of the lot. And a mortar round come in and hit from him about the yard of that camera from him. Didn't go off, just stuck up there. So we all got, after it got over with, we went out and was going to see about everybody, and I found him, and I walked over and I said, Reb, you all right? He didn't say a word. I kind of kicked him in the rib a little bit. I said, yeah, Reb, I said, are you all right? Nothing. Reached down, turned him over, and his eyes was open, looking straight up. I said, Reb, I thought you were dead. I thought I was too.
Did you ever have any close calls like that with yourself, or?
Oh, well, I had, we was moving from one camp to the other, and I was driving Deucenham, and there was I looked back through the mirror, and there was a Jeep running down the bar edge. The lieutenant there. And the first thing I knew, he come on with the butt of his rifle and hit a kid. Well, come to find out, this kid was fixing to throw a grenade up in the truck with us. I didn't know that. He seen it. And then another time, we went out to get vehicles. You'd have to follow, if anything happened, you follow the minesweeper out every morning because they'd plant mines and all this. And picked up a Jeep, and you're supposed to turn in all the ammunition and stuff that you find. There was a grenade box in there, and I opened it up and looked, made in it, put it back on. Well, turned it in, and the guy in charge of all that come over and got me and said, "What are you trying to do, kill us all?" I said, "No." He said, "You looked at the grenade?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to show you something." Went out there and he tied that thing up, tied a string onto it, pulled it out of the box, it says boom. I didn't pull it out of the box, I just put the lid off. Looked in.
Well, what was the attitude of the Vietnamese that you came into contact with?
Well, the trouble is you didn't know who was who. Whether it was friendly or Charlie or what. Our barber would give us shaves and cut our hair. But after a raid one night, found him dead out there. So.
And he was one of the locals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
what kind of contact did you have, say, as close as you and I are here, between the enemy?
Oh, the enemy? Well, pretty close when he was shaving me. But, didn't know it at the time. But otherwise, probably had a lot more close to call too, but I didn't know.
Did you ever get used to combat, or was it always a fact of life, or what was your attitude towards it?
Well, I wasn't thrilled over it, but I was in transportation, so I really didn't get any real combat in the jungles and this sort of thing like some of the other poor boys did. They had it rough. Some of them really had it rough. The only thing, I took a kid that his daddy had a heart attack. Red Cross got a hold of him. I took him one night over to Thompson Air Force Base. Went to the jungle, didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. But anyway, stuff like that. But I didn't have any trouble.
Well, were you able to come home for leave at all, or were you...
Went to Hawaii.
Went to Hawaii?
For a week.
Was that the Army's choice or your choice?
That was my choice.
Okay. What were you able to do in Hawaii?
Well, my wife come over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I met her over there, flew over there, and when I finally found her, she said, "I'm not getting back on that plane." And I said, "Well, you gonna go slow boat China back on there?" It had a air turbulence and all that, and she said it wasn't too bad till they had the stewardess shut on the floor, and said she got a little scared.
What was it like when you returned to Vietnam from Hawaii?
Well, it took me about 4 or 5 days to find my company because they moved twice on me. They moved, and then they moved again while I was looking for them. But I finally found them.
What was the rest of your service like?
You mean, well, when I
Once
got
you're
out
retired.
when I come back
Okay.
from over there. That was my last year of duty.
What was, how did you return to the United States? Did you fly back, or
Yeah. What we call freedom birds.
where did you land?
Where did we land? Gosh, it's been so long I forgot now. I don't even remember now where I landed. But one thing they would do is the pilots over there in them 747, when they come in and they take off, they go just as straight up as they could into the circle, because Charlie would love to get one of them.
On coming home, what was it like to be back in the United States at that time? In 1968, that was a difficult year for everybody.
Yeah, it was. It's strange because there's a letter that they would send home before the servicemen got home to their wives and family, and he would warn them that if we did things strange, like sit on the floor and eat, stuff like that, not to worry about it if we get over it, different things like that. But I come in, I was tired, and went from muddled all in the bed, and Joan come in and woke me up, and she never done that no more. She got a broomstick now.
Well, did y'all have any kids, or?
No, not at the time. All of our kids was, after I come home from service. Got 2 kids, one red-headed daughter, one son.
And what have you done in the years since?
Since?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to work. Well, I was already working for International Harvester, and went back to work for them, and they shipped me around. I was service manager at a couple of different places, Temple and different places, and then I worked at a training center for them, and then the dealership bought them out after 18 years, and they come in one day and said they didn't need my help any longer. So I thought, well, how am I going to tell the wife and kids? So I'll go home and tell the wife and kids. And my daughter, when I got through telling her, she was 7 or 8. She said, "I know all it is. I thought you said you were going to go preaching or something." She was so relieved. And then after that, I tried to get a job, and every time I'd fill out an application, I was overqualified. Wouldn't hire. So I figured that out. So I just found a job with Penske Truck Leasing. That all they wanted was one clerk, which I'd done before when I was with International, when I first started. So I just filled it out from what the job was, got the job. Well, I ended up service manager there, and then they ended up, I opened 2 or 3 shops, and one mess up to send me back and forth. So I worked for them 13 years. Done better for them 13 I ever did for International.
Well, what was the impact of the war on your life after you came home?
Well, other than getting over being jumpy, I guess, or something, the worst part I remember, and this, I was sitting in the living room, and it come on TV. Showing all the Vietnamese doing the best they could to get a boat out of there whenever the United States turned them over. After losing all the boys' lives. It was senseless. It's strictly political. And that was, I sat there and watched that on TV, and I don't know. That's the worst thing I did.
You were in Saigon at one time.
Oh, yeah.
What was it like? I assume maybe you watched it on TV when they evacuated Saigon.
Yes.
What was it like to see those people boarding the helicopters?
Well, again, just You know, they didn't finish the job, you know. And they could have done it with a couple of airplanes, but they lost all these boys' lives.
Have you ever made it up to Washington, D.C. to the memorial?
No.
Is that something that you've ever considered? Well, are you still employed, or are you retired now? Or?
I'm retarded.
Well, on that subject, explain your cap for us.
My cap?
Your cap.
Well, I deal in whatever. I mess around and trade and antique tractors and motors and just about everything I can get. So my kids went to the stock show and had this hat made up for me. And they put a garbage truck on it. I questioned them why they put a garbage truck.
Well, do you ever come into contact with any other veterans or people you served with?
Well, when I got home, I did meet one of the kids that I was in basic with. But other than that, I was in contact with Rev for a little while, and up until about 2 years ago, and so far I haven't been able to get a hold of the kid again. He was not in good health, so I don't know. I can't get a hold of him. I talked to Langhoff about 2 years ago, and that's about it, I guess.
Well, I tell you, Mr. Munday, thank you for joining us and telling your story. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Or?
Oh, a lot. I don't need to go into all that.
Well, anything you want to talk about. This is your tape.
Well, we made these bunkers out of these sandbags, 1,200 of them. We knew you could have counted them. But the first bunker we made was to put one around the refrigerator. That we had walked off with 5 of them off of the Saigon dock. Don't take long for GIs to walk off and stuff. So anyway. But anyway, on these bunkers we put these metal plates. And so all the people, all of them would leak, you know, because the wind engine up there ready. So we was up on top of the bunker while watching the gunships one night, you know, that's a pretty show, you know, that sounds like that's Christmas, you know. Anyway, we looked over and there was a helicopter, new helicopter pad they was putting in. So we got to talking. That good thick rubber would stop our leak. So we go over there and we mark off the size of our bunker. One night, cut it out. But we couldn't lift it, so he had an extra refrigerator. So we went over to the maintenance people next door to us and traded them refrigerator to go over and get that for and set it on the roof. And then we turned all the edges under and put sand on top. Well, all the wheels, lieutenants and all that bit, they'd come along and say, "Man, my roof leaks. Where did you get that to stop leaking?" No problem, man. So we just put sand up there and trunked it down good. You can stand up there at night, big white square out in the middle of that helicopter pad.
I take. Did anybody ever notice the missing patch?
Oh, I probably did, but they didn't know where it went.
Have there ever been any? Just one more question for you. You know, a lot of Hollywood videos come out about the Vietnam War. Have you ever had any reaction to those?
Yeah, I can't watch war movies. I
don't blame
some of the old John Wayne's I can go a little bit, but these new ones they got now, like the Brothers or something, I can't handle it. I've tried and I went in to live.
Well, anything else you'd like to say?
No, nothing I know of.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you again soon.